Hello, everybody. This is JJ Hardy here for Victory Leadership Coaching on another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. Today, we have another passionate servant leader here that decided she wanted to come on and tell us a little bit about her journey and what she's doing. And her name's Diane. Diane, do you want to give an introduction to the audience?
Sure. Thanks, JJ.
Sure.
Diane Mentzer, and I'm a business operations coach and advisor. So I'm coming out of a career as a second in command, either to a division director or business owners, and really helping create those systems, clarify paths, and define things. And so that's what gives my coaching a little bit of a different angle when I'm working with leaders and on strategic vision, is I've got that operations background. And so that is where I provide a lot of hands-on support, and especially in helping level up number two leaders, second in command, COO, vice president. Title really varies. I mean, in small companies, it could even be a manager, helping them really level up and really help the business owner step into that owner's box and be able to do the big picture work and the reasons that they started their company.
So, Diane, you said, thank you for sharing, but you said you were a second in command at your last position.
Yeah.
So that's what makes you passionate about this. But what really kind of compelled you to start your own thing? That's a big hike from going from being employee to employer. I'm just curious, what got you to the point where you wanted to do it on your own?
Yeah. And it's not just my last job. I'm a born second in command kind of person. This is like my thing. I did the Working Genius assessment and I did the integrator masterclass and the entrepreneurial operating system integrator assessment. Is just what I am born to do and what I've done my whole life. And so really it's because I really get that position and I know how hard it is. And what I noticed, and it might have come out of the fact that my master's was for being the liaison between tech teams and business teams. But I really noticed that, the entrepreneurs and the second in command speak a different language almost. You've got this visionary big picture person, moves fast, generally, these are generalizations, moves fast, wants quick bits of information, lots of ideas. And then your second in command, the person that's really got to execute that, is much more in the details. They want to think through things a little bit. They have a lot of questions, which, if not framed the right way, then can come off as like attacking somebody's idea when really you're just trying to understand it. And just knowing what I've experienced on that end, what I had seen from learning through the entrepreneurial operating system and all just different companies and people I'd worked with, really, it's like that is a big need. Like there's a lot of misunderstandings, and we tend to value people like ourselves, like, because we get that, right? So then we see it in somebody else. It's like, oh yes, I get that. I love that. And when it's different, maybe you don't really understand it, so you don't value it in the same way. Not that you don't value, but you just don't understand it and value it in the same way. And so a lot of that is really happening with business owners and whoever they're leading on, and it leads to a lot of frustration in both parties. And so I was like, well, how can I help business owners? Because I've always wanted to do that. I flashed back when I started my company to when I was 19 and told my parents that I wanted to help companies get everything set up and running smooth, and then just come back in and check on them. At the time, I thought that was management consulting, but it's not really. It's coaching, right?
Yeah.
When you come back in and check on them like that. So I knew before I knew what it was, I knew I wanted to do that. But, how could I help business owners and help this person in the second in command role best? And so when I was designing my ops success blueprint, that's what a lot of what went into that thinking was, how do I best support both of these people in slightly different ways so that together they can really harness the incredible power they have, because the power is really in their differences. And when they are in sync and working together, the sky's the limit for the company, because you've got the best of both of them. And so helping them understand how to communicate with each other, that they need each other, and more work goes in with the second in command, because ultimately it's the business owner's business. But really helping them sort of understand a little bit why they need to have somebody that's different from them in that seat, and the power that they have when they work together, is really pretty amazing and exciting to help people uncover that.
You know, I'm gonna flash a book up here real quick, because you did something, you explained something very well that this book didn't, but it also goes into the detail of getting you there. And I'm sure you know which one I'm gonna put up here already. But
Yeah.
the E-Myth.
Yes.
So he does an excellent job at the why you need to have the different personalities, but he doesn't bridge them very well in that book. And so the fact that you do that for your business, oh my gosh, what an important thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I saw too. Rocket Fuel is the entrepreneurial operating systems book about that relationship. Same thing. The main strategy they talk about for getting them together is the same page meeting, which is like a 1-hour meeting every week that they should be having. But when you're first starting out, if you say, okay, I want you guys to meet for an hour every week, the visionary, leader, founder is going to be like, shoot me now. I don't want to sit and spend an hour talking about details and stuff. This is just, the last thing in the world I want to do. So it's kind of like working out. Why, you don't have to jump into a whole hour. So like my coaching for the second in command and sharing this with the business owner too, is like, just start to get 15 minutes of your drive time, and then help the second in command understand how to make that really valuable 15 minutes for the business owner, so that they start wanting more. And then you gradually build up until you're having this amazingly productive and powerful, 1-hour session, if that winds up what's right for you guys. But don't just try to jump all in on that and then be trying to fill the hour. Start with 15 minutes, and then you're always going to be, we should really talk a little longer, but stick to the time. Then it's like, okay, we never finish in 15. Let's start doing 25 or 30 or, whatever it is, but gradually build up. So it's always a value add. And that also just too, for helping the second in commands communicate better, how you frame questions, making sure that they're in the right space so that when you ask questions, they're going to be well received. It's just as simple as saying, when they come by and do a drive by and here's 5 big ideas, okay. And they're, they're walking down the hall, ready to head out. They probably don't want to dive into questions, but, saying, wow, this is, really cool ideas. I really want to make sure I understand them better. When can I ask you some questions about them? Or what would be a good time? Or really like to talk through these with you, so I make sure I understand everything that's in your head, because you've probably been thinking about it a while and it's new to me. All of a sudden, that conversation doesn't feel like an attack. But they come by and they'll hear some ideas and you're like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Because that's what your default is. Like, okay, how am I going to make this all happen? It's, it can come off negative. And then the entrepreneur is all of a sudden like, wow, they're just so negative, I'm not going to tell them ideas anymore. But that's not really it. I'm trying to figure out, how the heck am I going to make this happen? I need more information. But if I don't frame it that way, the other person doesn't know. And so I start with the visionary, the entrepreneur, clarifying what they want their life to look like, what they want their company to look like, so you can work towards them in tandem. A lot of times they're working at cross purposes. Like they say, I want to go here with my life, and every action that they're taking is sending them in the opposite direction. So we try to look at some of that, then really get those two, the owner and their second in command, working in sync, get that sorted out and running. Then we start looking at the rest of the company. So let's looking at the company in terms of roles, like functionally, what does it take to run the business today? And then what are the main 3 to 5 top responsibilities for every role? Not thinking about people, because in small businesses especially, you've got multiple people in multiple seats, which is fine. You just have to be clear about who's doing what, and make sure they're clear and make sure they understand the priorities. And sometimes you have 2 people filling the same seat. And if the aspects of it aren't well defined, things can fall through the cracks. So that whole exercise really uncovers a lot. Work through it, take some time to get all of those. Then you get everybody there running in sync. All of a sudden, it's a whole new world. And you haven't done any, at this point, you still haven't done any major change. You're just incremental changes, clearly defining things, helping people understand what success looks like, so that then they can be successful. And people want to be successful. And sometimes they think they're being successful, but because maybe they don't fully understand what they're supposed to be doing, you're frustrated because they're not doing what you want, but they don't even realize that they're missing the mark sometimes. And so, and then if they are, that helps you uncover that too. But I always go in with the, everybody, best intentions from everybody. Assume that everybody has great intentions and wants the business to succeed. If they don't, that'll come out. But if you start at that point, the results you get are so much better.
I agree. And you brought up two of the major things that I think would be great to have a conversation about, and that's identifying roles. But even earlier than that, you talked about in passing conversations. I'd like to start there, actually, if we could. How important it is to identify that you had to put time on the schedule for those types of things, because when you're in a small business, I mean, and I know, but the audience probably doesn't know, we are literally wearing every single hat as a small business owner. And so if there are two people that are doing all of those jobs, then how much bandwidth do you have unless you take additional time out of the day to focus on idea generation and just discussing how those new things or existing things that could be changed could be made better? You can't do it without setting time out on the schedule. And I thought it was great that you mentioned that. What are some of the conversations you have around that, and what are some, maybe you want to share one great success story that you've had with that sort of thing?
With like the same page meeting, that's a concept from the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. And it's really just is, brilliant to get those two people in a room together where they're just talking about advancing the business and making sure that they're still on the same page, because entrepreneurs just move so fast. And and lots of new ideas. And then also it's important. So when I worked with one visionary, and she had lots and lots of amazing ideas and would come to these sessions with all these ideas. And to help us not, go down the wrong path or spend too much time on something that wasn't super critical, because there were, often like, okay, these are some priority ideas, but I called it her big idea list. And we would put it on the list. And it's like, because a lot of times, especially when you're in the business and this is your boss and they come in and they might just say something and keep moving because they're fast moving people with lots of ideas. And it might be to them, if you have time, maybe do this. But you're like, oh no, the boss said do this. I'm dropping everything and doing this. And then you find out later, well, what you were doing was really important. And that was just like a kind of a, when you have time, might be nice to think about someday idea, because they're all delivered with the same enthusiasm. So
you're right.
So I called it her big idea list, and we would put it on there, and it's like, okay, what kind of priority is this? And just, I think for her, the calm that she felt knowing that it was on the list, like it was documented somewhere, nobody was going to forget about it. It was there. And if it was a priority, we would wind up getting to it. And then I like a lot of the different business operating systems, but the MIND methodology really talks about having a filter. And the book that's with is like Your Most Important Number, but it's a lot of similarities to EOS too. But the point was that you come up with filters for new ideas, and every new idea has to go through this filter to make sure that it's better than what you're already doing. And then you may decide to invest the resources to shift. But if it's not, then you stay the course with what you have, which is often the case. You want to stay the course, or maybe you're making some slight adjustments. But having that filter also takes it away from me saying, I don't think that's a good idea. It's like, okay, an idea. Let's put it through the filter. Does it meet these things? Do we think it's going to do this? No. Okay, let's put it on the list for a down the road type idea. But that way it also takes, all of a sudden I'm not the one saying, I don't think we should do this. It's like, we came up with a filter we agreed on, and it doesn't pass the test. So it goes to the maybe later list. But I think a lot of that feeling heard, really helping that visionary or your entrepreneur, your business owner, helping that person feel like you heard their idea, you understand what they're talking about and thinking about. And even if it's something you don't wind up doing immediately, knowing that their head's going in that direction can help you spot other opportunities as you execute. So it's just really great for them to be in sync. And then as the ops person, you can be bringing a challenge and saying, here's something that I'm seeing. Let's get your amazing brain working on figuring out, something like we're starting to see this in the market, or we're running into this challenge. What are your thoughts? It's, helps them, engage them in that piece of it, but doesn't keep them sucked down in the daily details that often drain them and make them not want to come to work anymore, and lets them keep doing the things that they love, which is really important. And it's that, they're two sides of the same coin and you need both.
Yep. Agreed. By the way, I don't know if you know him, but Adam Leeper put a comment on here and said 2 super cool people. So not sure if you know him or not, but he did put that comment out there. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
That is so cool. Yes, I did day 3 is today. I think day 3. Yeah, day 3 is today. I did Adam is amazing. And I just was part of his Scale with Leadership Summit. And yes, I think my episode is going live. My session for that is going live today. So it's pretty exciting. But yeah, Adam's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I plan on doing some partnership stuff, whether it's him on my podcast and me on his, or what we decide to do. I'm not really sure yet. So we've been in conversation, but he's a great guy and a former military guy. But I want to go back to what we were talking about before. So the identification of roles.
Yeah.
I'm not sure at what point you usually deal with clientele, but how important. I actually, speaking of Adam, I just had this conversation with him and another person the other day, where we were talking about how important it was to understand all the different roles that you play as one person when you're an entrepreneur. Not just you, but if you have a second in command, or you have, I'll go back to the E-Myth, right? So if you have that technician and the manager and the owner there, and you got to figure out what everybody's doing. And, when it comes time to start expanding, if you don't know all the different roles that you play, you're going to be winging it forever. I'm just curious, what types of techniques, I'll say techniques, have you used to help people identify the different roles that they do play?
Yeah. That's awesome. And you asked a little bit about when. The sooner the better. Like the earlier you can start figuring this stuff out, the better. So I had an amazing client, and I just had a conversation with her today. So it's excellent timing. But she was a solopreneur that she is building an agency. And so we started working together, and I helped her. I call it the get it off my plate tool that I have. It's a spreadsheet that we use, but it's like, have her, you start documenting what are you doing? Like, let's just figure out, what are you doing? And then what do you want to keep? What does it make sense for you to keep? What do you enjoy doing? And sometimes it's like, well, I'm going to keep this for now. I'm going to keep this forever, break it out like that. You start looking at all the different tasks, and then kind of putting them into roles. Okay, well, this is like a marketing task. This is a BD task. This is a sales task. This is a client services task. And then that helps you as you start to think about what is going to come off the plate and what level of priority that is, what type of person it needs to go to. So that helped. So for her, and we figured out, okay, these are you need a good project manager. You need somebody with marketing expertise to do this piece of it. And it helped her figure out who were her first hires. And then she understands now too, some other pieces of that as she grows, who does it make sense to bring on? So that's if you're starting from scratch. A lot of times I'm coming in to work with people, the company's been going and it's grown, these are successful businesses. And when you're growing a company organically, you bring somebody in for one job, but then you start to grow and these other things need to be done. And you can't really hire somebody full-time yet or part-time. And it's like, so people wind up with pieces of different jobs. And I think I said it when I was on with Adam, but you have this bowl of spaghetti now, right? Because everybody, it's like, who really is doing what? You just don't even know. Everything's getting done. Your customers are happy. Everything's getting done, but it's not getting done as smoothly or as, streamlined as it could be. And there are probably things falling through the cracks and gaps and things like that. So I love the accountability chart from the entrepreneurial operating system. It's a functional org chart. You just start thinking about what are the different roles, devoid of people, what roles does it take? And then, and there's some basic sales, marketing, and then you can start to break it out. A bigger company, you might have a couple layers. Smaller company, you might have one layer or two layers, just like the different boxes. But you really just think about what are the different roles. At this point, you're not even thinking full-time, part-time. What are the different roles? And what are the 3 to 5 core responsibilities for each role? And then after you figure that out, then you can start to plug in who's doing what. Having one person in multiple seats, very normal. But what you might start to see is like, oh, I've got her doing 2 marketing tasks, 1 sales task, and 1 admin task. And, her strength is really in the marketing piece. And here I've got somebody else who's doing 2 sales tasks, 1 marketing task, and 3 admin tasks. You just start to see how things are split up. So you might want to shift, get people in their sweet spot. Then you start thinking about the people. What are their strengths? What does it make sense for them to keep doing? Are there other things that, how do you want to split it out when it's like that? But the big red flag is when you have 2 people filling 1 role. Because unless it's very clearly defined, you run the risk of lots of things falling through the cracks because each person can think the other person's accountable or responsible for it.
Yeah, you have to have a really good task manager in a situation like that. Otherwise, things do fall through the cracks.
Yeah, or just really clearly defined. Like if it's sales and it's like, okay, you're A to M and you're, M to Z, or you're A to N, you're M to Z, whatever it is. You've got to figure that out. And I just think I just did my letters wrong. That's really embarrassing.
It's okay. I knew what you meant.
You know what I meant, right? First half. I'll just go first half of the alphabet, last half of the alphabet. That's what I'll say now.
That's right. You split it down the middle. That's all. That's all we need to know.
Regions or states or something. Good grief. But really, it's like if it's clearly defined, then you're fine. But you just have to make sure it's really clearly defined. And then that lets you see who's overloaded. That might also let you see who's overloaded, maybe who's not. It lets you see where do you want to start thinking about your next priority hires. So I start with the 2 at the top, get those roles clear first, then start working through the rest of the company. And then you can start bringing in key performance indicators, like what are our goals? What do those break down into? Like what would have to happen quarterly or monthly or daily? And there'll be different frequencies for different KPIs,
Sure.
But really starting to break it down like that. But I'm all about incremental changes, working through things gradually and incrementally. It's much less risky, it's much less stressful, and it's more cost effective because you're not blowing everything up. You're not trying to do this big change. You're not stressing out your team by doing a big change on top of everything else. Sometimes it's a pain to, document what you do for 2 weeks because we want to make sure we're capturing everything. And I guess that's the other point too, like when you're doing that accountability chart or functional org chart, whatever you want to call it, get your team's input. They see things from a different angle, and something that you might identify as a priority item, they might have some input like, yeah, that is a priority, but here you're forgetting this critical step that happens, or, we're starting to see this change. Your team gets to see your company from a different angle. And so their perspective when you're creating these types of documents and things, and having them agree and buy in. If they agree, like, okay, yeah, I agree. We get to it. Like, yeah, these are the responsibilities for the different roles I fill. These are the priorities. And when you have roles with competing priorities, helping them understand which one is, gets a higher priority out of the 2 is really important because people want to be successful.
Yeah.
And the more you can set them up for that, the more engaged they'll be, the more committed they are to your company, and they're going to get better results for you.
You brought up something really important there. So I've had a couple people over the course of the last few years, I guess, but ask me, why is coaching blowing up to be this big thing? Well, I said, I don't know when it wasn't, to be quite honest with you. I spent my entire career as a soldier, living under the ideology that you should be teaching, coaching, and mentoring on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I explain, I'm like, hey, look, coaching works because you're not giving people solutions. You're almost like qualifying the ideas that they come up with together and helping them build some accountability in there. And if they come
Right.
up with those ideas, that's an extra layer of accountability because it came out of their mouth and now they have to do it. Otherwise they kind of look like the dummy. And
that's a great point. That's
it
a
really
great point.
is.
Yeah.
But, that's why coaching is just the most powerful thing in the world, in my opinion. It's a little bit different than athletic coaching, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to help great people become their best.
And I just did a post recently about how coaching for the quarterback coach is very similar to a coach for your second in command.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because this is a specialty player, right? They're a specialty player on your team. And the coach sees things that are in their blind spots, helps draw out ideas and see things that they can't see themselves just because of where they are on the field. It's not that the coach is, more talented or smart. You've got that star player. We're just helping them see other things that are out there. And then because I have that operations background, that helps me spot ops things. And somebody else that has, entrepreneurial coaches that have business building backgrounds, they're going to help entrepreneurs spot things to help them build their business. It's like, I think it's really cool that coaches are getting more specialized and specific because we do bring different expertise to the table.
Yep. I agree. And not only do we bring that expertise, but it's almost a prerequisite, because if you can't identify when there's something that should be pointed out, then you're not really an effective coach. That's why some of these people that come straight out of high school or college and want to become a coach, I just challenge them to get a little bit of experience first. But but otherwise, you're absolutely right. And we're coming up on 30 minutes. But in just a couple of minutes, what's some imparting wisdom or maybe a promotion or anything that you want to share with the audience that you think would be beneficial?
Okay. Well, yeah.
Sorry,
I'm going to recap a couple. There's just so much. No, there's just.
And you don't have to, but
No,
I usually ask that question towards the end of the call.
Yeah, no, I've got some. I just wanted to think of things that are that would be easier to implement, and so one is really, I think, have that mindset that your people care about your company. They want to do the best and help them be successful by helping them understand how to be successful. But that, mindset that people have good intentions. Your staff has good intentions. They have a vested interest in your success. So it's worth having a conversation with them. And that the importance for business owners, just the importance of partnering effectively with somebody who can take the things you hate off your desk, and that it's nothing against you if you can't do it all. You shouldn't have to do it all. Your business is in greater risk if you're doing it all. So don't beat yourself up. Oh, I'm not doing it all. I need to ask for help. That's normal. And that is actually good, because it means your company's growing, and it's going to be able to grow more if you get back to doing the things that helped you grow it to begin with and get some of the stuff you hate off your desk. Work doesn't have to be hard. When you're doing the work you love, it's fun and energizing and engaging. And your second in command, the stuff you hate, that's what they find fun and energizing. So, take advantage of that and really partner with them so that they can help you, because that you have an amazing power, and the ripple effects go far beyond your relationship. When you two are in sync and working well together, the ripple effects go out beyond even your company and the people that you're touching, because it improves everybody's feeling better, improves their family lives, it improves who they touch. You just, you're sending good out into the world.
Yes. Great points. from a great point, from a great person. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Diane, thank you for coming on here today and being a guest on the show. And I'll let you know when it goes live on Spotify and all that too. But this was just great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it too. Oh, and I guess my plug is like, find me on LinkedIn. I'm putting out all kinds of posts with tips and strategies, and yeah, would love to connect with you there.
So Diane Mentzer on LinkedIn. I will make sure that either she or I, after we're done, that one of us puts below the LinkedIn video here,
Cool.
her information, or maybe I'll find a way to tag her or something like that. But
Awesome.
Anyway, for anybody who is watching or has watched, thank you. For anybody who watches in the future, I really appreciate it. If you enjoy this information, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you see it there. But the most important thing is to make sure you comment below so we can keep the conversation going on anything that you found was valuable. Otherwise, again, I appreciate it. But this was another great episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. I'll see you next time.